You're on, baby. All right. So, you know what indicates the start to any great show is
What's
when it gets delayed like 7 times. That means it's going to be a great season.
Wow.
All right, how do we want to jump into this? Like, I don't really have. I guess I do have like this whole speech about how we can't provide any more insight than anyone else already has, and
I
that
can barely provide any insight because I've seen the first episode, one time, and it was a month and a half ago. I don't even remember what happens in the first episode.
Well, let me refresh your memory because I took
Yeah.
notes when I started watching. I take this seriously, Mark. All right. The episode is called The Light Bulb Scene, and it's the episode where BoJack has to, under the coordination of the new director, I forget what his name is,
Yeah.
says that he has quality already. He has to unscrew a light bulb in the nude
Yeah, that's right.
to be like his most naked self. And then at the same time, what are the other subplots? We're introduced to Sassy Malone, his coworker.
Yeah.
Todd has that relationship with an ocelot. Is that what that animal is? I think that's what it
Yeah.
is.
And Oslo? I thought Oslo was like
An ocelot is a cat.
a
The weird jellyfish lizard thing.
I don't think that's a real animal.
No, it is a real animal.
I thought it was made up.
No, it's for real. BoJack sticks with real animals, I think. But anyway, yeah, those are like the subplots. So, okay, maybe the best place to start is the very beginning, and that is opening up to John Filbert's house, the character
Yeah.
that BoJack is playing.
Yeah.
And a question I wrote down watching the episode for the second time, and really like one that should stick with you through the entire season, I think, is why do you think John Filbert's house looks the same as BoJack Horseman's house? And let me like go into the description of what the director, as in the character of the TV show, I can't remember his name. We should really do a better job of knowing characters.
It's the character is it doesn't say.
But
Oh wait, I can find it here.
he
It's
just he
flip
described
flip. Is it flip?
yeah. Yeah, there's a good gag later on about him being Flip. Why does so he describes it as spare, lonely, precariously balanced on the hill of his own isolation. I thought that was good. Any thoughts?
um. Well, I think. Well, to me, the most obvious thing that comes to mind is the connection that comes in a later episode when Diane writes in the scene for BoJack, where he basically just says that whole bit about when he almost banged the dear daughter, and just the fact that that's the exact same thing that he said in real life is obviously that connects to the fact that his house is the same. So I think there's an obvious just play on the fact of how similar the Filbert character is to BoJack's
House. Yeah.
uh,
Well, okay. So there's more to this too. In the main title sequence, the scene that is ordinarily just like them going through BoJack Horseman's house is replaced with them going through the set of BoJack Horseman's house, or sorry, rather John Filbert's house.
Mhm.
And I remember when I first saw this, I thought potentially there was going to be some awful ending to the whole season about how it's all been a dream, or 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 maybe like upon having watched the show, rather the season to its entirety, I think it's really kind of getting at the idea of how he's losing touch with reality, and how the facets of like the character he plays and himself all kind of blur together. Because there's this great line at the end of the episode when Princess Carolyn says, "So maybe don't be the drunk asshole. Maybe this time you have a good attitude. You don't drink so much and you show up to your call time on time. And then you put on a costume and you pretend to be this other guy. And then when you're done shooting, you take off your costume and you're BoJack, the star of the show that everybody likes." And it's after that point that she says that he just like he looks as though he's legitimately happy, and so he's walking around set naked. He invites everyone to a party after at his place. um I don't know. And any more thoughts now that I've rambled on?
Well, do we get any detail about what the show Filbert is actually about?
It's just this detective. What's the line? Oh man, you have to be sharp on these because I will not be sharp on them. But the line about how like it's confusing, which means the show is daring and smart. um, but to try to answer it, as I recall, it's about a detective who kills his best friend, and there's ghosts and other. I don't know. It's confusing. Therefore, it's smart. Um, I don't have an answer to your question.
Well, I think one thing that's interesting is how some of the characters he's played in the past, whether that's on Horsing Around or Secretariat, it really represents the type of person he wants to be. But then obviously Bill Burke is the type of character that he actually is.
Yeah, and he reiterates that quite a bit in the season. How he feels that's too much like him. That's good. What about you have more context because you watched season 4 recently, or more recent than me for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how he gets put on the show. I do remember that Princess Carolyn asked him to do it as a favor.
Yeah. She. What did happen? I don't remember why he owed her something.
I don't either. Oh shit.
I can't remember.
Good TV.
But then there was she like forged his signature before she asked him to do it. Like, forged his signature, signing on to play the role.
I don't know. It'll just get messy if you try to retrace the steps and figure it all out. One thing I did want to bring up is there was, and I think this is just like a good thing to bring up at the start of the new season, is the idea of overanalyzing anything. And there was a video that I watched recently from Now You See It, some YouTube channel, which talked about the scene in Inglourious Bastards when they're at the bar with the German officer and he confuses King Kong with the black slave trade. Yeah, and that Guess Who game.
Yeah.
And so Flip, the director, kind of brings up the idea of whether if meaning is objective and we have to take meaning what's intended by the artist versus subjective, where it's, you know, whatever meaning that you draw from it. Like, what is the show itself, BoJack Horseman, saying about BoJack, the relationship with his character, Filbert, and also the relationship with the show that BoJack is playing in and the director? Any thoughts on that?
Well, at the very beginning, I thought that it was going to be some type of commentary on the Me Too movement.
Interesting.
And I don't think it has been, at least not that I've understood.
So how far are you right now?
The last episode I watched was it was a like really weird episode. I didn't really get it. It was hang on. Oh, it was the one where the two therapists are like having lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
And they're sharing stories. So that's as far as I've gotten.
Okay. Cool. I hold that thought.
All right.
Not for a later conversation today, but for a later conversation in the future. That's good. I like that. That's very interesting. Based on what, can I ask?
Based on just the fact that the director is a blatant just misogynist and doesn't really care. He's just kind of a stereotypical director who pretends to be like this perfectionist and is just overly controlling. But it's just, you know, just nude scenes for the sake of having nude scenes. Doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, there's a great line with Gina, who plays Sassy Malone in the detective show, when they say, "Get nipple ice." I like the idea of ice being specifically shaped for a nipple. Optimal perkiness. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, so something else from this YouTube video was a clip of Darren Aronofsky when he was asked what the meaning behind Mother was, and he clearly has an answer, but like he just wants to listen to other people's theories. And then also later in the clip, there's someone in the audience, or not in the audience, someone on Aronofsky's side who like volunteers to tell what the answer is, but Aronofsky like shushes her. And then there's another clip. I'm just going to kind of package these together and then throw them at you and see if you have a take. And there's another clip of David Lynch when he says, "I love this man."
That's great.
So David Lynch says, "It's a shame when something is finished and then people want you to summarize it in words. It's like listening to music with only the lyrics." And
wait, say that again.
It's a shame when something is finished and then people want you to summarize it in words. It's like listening to music, but only with the lyrics. And so I don't know that it ties 100% into the Filbert house looking like BoJack Horseman's house. It's an anecdote that I want to explore a little bit. And I just want to know if you have any takes on that.
Well, one of my favorite David Lynch quotes is he says to an interviewer, believe it or not, Eraserhead is actually my most spiritual film. And the interviewer says, elaborate on that. And he just says, no.
Yeah, because David Lynch makes the argument in that same clip that it's impossible to, like, I don't know how to phrase it best, but like it would be like us trying to explain why we had a good time at a bar, right?
I agree.
Like if you really summarize it, it's like two guys sat at a bar, had some drinks, talked, left. We're a little drunk. But when you're in it, it's much different. Or maybe it's just us being delusional. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's some artist intent in it, but I have yet to figure out exactly what the connection is.
The connection to the house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just keep an eye on it. I don't know that it ever actually crops up in a big way, but it's interesting. Then, so another kind of short portion of the episode is the call that he sends, or not sends, but the call he makes to Hollyhock in the middle of the night. And what he says is, "I don't miss you, I'm just bored." And my like initial reaction to that is, I don't understand why BoJack can't just admit that he has some kind of parental love, or maybe parental is the wrong word, more like brotherly, I think. But I don't know. I think, I come from the privileged state of not being emotionally damaged quite like this fictional horse has.
Yeah.
But it just seems so odd to not odd, but it's difficult to relate to how he relates. And I was wondering if you have anything else to add to that interaction that he has with Holly.
I agree with what you said, because the theme of BoJack having trouble emotionally connecting with people has been a recurring theme series. It's kind of similar to the scene with Wanda, where he accidentally says "I love you" to her, and then just says "No, I don't" right after.
Mm-hmm.
But
or even, I'm not spoiling anything. I think this happens in season 4. But when he is with his mother in the ICU ward, and he has this chance to either be an absolute asshole to this person that is just complete out of it, or he also has a chance just to kind of to squash the beef and just say, like, I'm not sure what you say in that situation actually, but
yeah.
I just think it's interesting. Or, like, again, I guess I don't relate, and I have difficulties understanding how he's unable to just at least, I don't know. I think I'm actually so detached from this that I can't really talk on it eloquently at all.
But I thought Hollyhock would be a big character in the season, and as of yet, that was the only scene she was in.
Yeah, well, I think it kind of gets at how he neglects the people that truly love him. Not that his mother is one of those people, but even Diane, like, him and Diane are very close, but they're also extremely removed in the season.
Yeah.
Here's a line. Here's a line from that strange-looking squid thing that Todd is dating. And I like it a lot. At the end of your life, you'll look back and think, that was a good day. I think that's related to Todd going on some adventure to get like a sandwich or
Yeah,
something or other, and that's like his entire day.
yeah.
Um, any thoughts? Any mental rummagings?
um,
I mean, is that a way to evaluate whether or not something is worth doing?
I would, I think yes, but I feel like that Squid character has. I mean, she's only been in a few scenes. I mean, so far that I've seen, but I can't even remember now if she and Todd have broken up at this point, or if they even do. I can't remember if they're still together, but as of episode 7. Um, but it just seems like she, or really Todd, has no direction in life and just kind of goes with the flow, and as long as he's having fun, he's okay with it. Well, whereas this Squid character is very much opposite, and when her life is up, or technically, I think while she's living her life, she's not at the end of the day thinking that she have fun or have a good day. She's just thinking, you know, where is that? Or really did my day get closer to accomplishing the goal?
Yeah.
So they're two very different characters, and I think that it's interesting that
See, here's the disconnect. And I'm not advocating for the other side, but it's important to acknowledge it. Where you might think that like working her career is a bad use of a good day, she or people like her would think that working a career and climbing that ladder is a good or like a good day, right? Like that big promotion is what you've been working for the past 5 years.
I would agree, but I don't think that any of them look back on their life they're about to die and still think that.
Oh, I don't know. I think I disagree.
I think I don't think anybody looks back on their life and thinks and wishes that they worked more or even the same amount. Everyone wishes that they worked less.
Well, this is getting good. I don't know that I entirely. I mean, so I've never been on my deathbed, but I know from working at a factory because it's the most recently, and I was able to document all the sensations I was having from that experience. That the day that I left was actually bittersweet, even though I hated the job, and it was because there is this sense of pride in being able to do something well that I would imagine someone who's very career focused would get the same kind of pride from. Like it's something it's to a fault of mine where the affirmation from other people of saying like we're really going to miss you. You were the best. What you were the best door cutter we've ever had. Uh, drastically overqualified for this position. But still, like I definitely was. Upon reflection, I was really proud of what I was able to do. Right.
So the bittersweet, or well, the sweet part of the bittersweet was really pride.
Yeah, it's more like So
Interesting. Yes,
again,
I felt bittersweet about ending or leaving jobs, but it's never been because of pride.
I think it's very different because this was a case where everyone was telling me, when I leave, we're going to have problems. And you were really a stand up guy. I mean, it was a huge ego boost at the last day.
Yeah.
I wish I had heard it more throughout, but still, like, I'm very, yeah, proud is the unfortunate word I'm going to use here because it's not, I don't know if it's proud. It's really just like having people tell you that you were so fucking good at this thing and their lives are going to be worse now because you're leaving. That that's quite a statement. And so
Yeah.
I really don't want to ever go back, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that episode in Rick and Morty when they've got the oh damn it, what are the wafers called? I forget.
Wafers?
Yeah, Rick's simple wafers, I think. Take a bite into no, whatever. But there's this machine that like gets the tears from this Rick Sanchez, who witnesses his daughter's birthday over and over and over again, and and then he gets replaced by another guy who shoots that Rick and is instead plays the video of him like overthrowing the factory manager and walking out and thinking that he's a free man now. Uh, but basically, I want to be hooked up to a machine where on a loop, I can just have the like 8 hour span, not even 8 hours, it's more like 2 hour span of people just saying, "Hey, I heard you're leaving today. Like, I'm really gonna miss you." You did just a bang up job here. My life will be worse without you. I mean, that's powerful. Yeah. Anything else to knit from that?
um, well, I do think it's interesting that the what what you're really bittersweet about is the impact that you felt that you made on other people. It's not pride in the actual work that you did. It's pride in the fact that people liked you.
Oh yeah, this is good. I think yeah, you've hit it right on the nail. Um, I didn't care that I was making doors at all. the that I need to find this very quickly. The line from one of my coworkers, which was something to the effect of, I can't believe we're hurling through space and we're locked in this factory just making doors. Something like that. I mean, I think in everything that I try to do, or there's still this nagging part about being an atheist that I have, which is the idea of there is no purpose. And I don't think that I'll ever like go back to an existential idea and leave the idea of nihilism. And let's define it real quick. I think nihilism is defined as everything just is, whereas existentialism is like there is no purpose, but you can create purpose for yourself. And so, from a tangent or somewhere in the middle there, I think if there were to be any purpose to anything, it would be connecting to people on some kind of level
Yeah.
about whatever the two of you share in common. Like that's what makes doing or just sharing a moment with someone so special is the fact that like you two can both go back to this point in time where the two of you were there and you know the events that happened because both of you were there, right? Like it's not so much like if I told you that I watched Star Wars 1 today, and then you tell me that you watched Star Wars as well, that doesn't really do anything. But if we sit in a room and watch it together, now we've created this moment in time that we've shared. And I think that there is like some magic to that. I don't know if it's enough to warrant purpose, but there is magic to it in some way.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I guess like to bring this all back to the original statement or to what you had just recently said, the I do find some or a lot of like satisfaction out of being able to touch someone's heart, I suppose.
Yeah.
Okay, Mark, you say something now. That
Well,
was
I don't think we can tie this back to BoJack because I don't think we've been given enough character development to this with the thing.
fair enough. Yeah, this episode, although there was like although it establishes the show pretty well for season 5, there's actually not too much to pack into it. Like the next 2 episodes are a lot denser, but they'll be for another time. Um, here's something else. So I've got like I think 3 more points left here. Um, the Mr. Peanut Butter and I forget. Are we introduced to pickles at this point?
No, that's episode 2.
Okay. Well, I don't know where this comes from. I'm not sure what character says it, but some character says, or the idea of what some character says, it's good to have nothing else in common because you can become a fuller, more well-rounded person and change or develop in relationship to, well, relationships. Um, and I don't know, any takes on that?
Is it quote again?
It's not a quote. It's just the idea is kind of opposites attract, where it's good to have nothing else in common because you can become a fuller, more well-rounded person and develop and change.
I think I somewhat agree with that. I'm trying to think why. Well, maybe not actually.
Maybe
Because
not.
maybe I don't agree with that. I think the best relationship you can have with someone is, well, actually maybe not. I don't know. Because I'm thinking on one hand, you want a relationship where you don't feel like the other person is just, in some sense, an idiot and doesn't know basic things that you consider basic things. So, for example, I don't know if I could ever have a really close relationship, be it romantic or friendship, with someone who like truly believes in God.
Yeah.
Because like they just are on a completely different level of what they think life is all about, what they're trying to get out of life. And just any basic conversation, I feel like there's no interesting conversation I can have with them because they're just always going to go back to the idea of God.
They are void of interesting topics.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, there are definitely other things that someone can be, other characteristics that someone can have that are a lot different than you that can be interesting. You know, one thing I always love is listening to like someone talk about on, I mean, like a hobby specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And just, recognizing that they're in, they're involved in this whole world of, whatever it is that they are interested in. Just kind of seeing that, seeing how much they love it, I think it's pretty cool.
I agree. This kind of gets back to the idea of the conversation we had related to what a good day is defined as, and like looking back on your deathbed. In the sense that I think I would be just as enchanted listening to someone talk about fishing, but like very passionately, right? Maybe fishing is a bad example. I need to like rock and roll. I'm just as enchanted listening to someone talk about rock and roll and them making their music and their creative process as I would be listening to someone talk about how you can make an extra $1 million this year by fucking over some person with hedge funds.
Yeah.
Like, as long as there's that intensity, I mean, I'm sure I'd get sick of the Wall Street example. Just like I'm also sure that I would probably get sick of the rock and roll example, actually. Like, there's just probably some technical details I don't really care about, etc. But yeah, passion. I think passion's a pretty universal thing where it doesn't really matter what the subject is. It is interesting if you think it's very interesting and can express that.
But on the other hand, I feel like people at my work like love golf. And they love to talk about golf. I'm not into it. And even though they're passionate about it, I don't think it's interesting at all. I'm just bored. So I think that you still have to be somewhat similar. For example, I could be interested in, listening to someone talk about, I don't know, cooking. No means a cooking expert, but I like a good meal. I find there to be an art in making food. So yeah, I could do that. But someone passionate about, something fucking stupid like golf, that's too far apart from me.
Right, but I wonder if it changes if you've got Tiger Woods, or I don't know what golfers.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, or just someone who's a good speaker.
Right, like maybe it's easier to connect people about music because you're interested in music, and there's just less of a wall to hop over. But if you do have someone that is an expert in something, like I'm assuming that your coworkers would not have been the strongest of golf players, and they're only spending max like 8 hours a week golfing.
Yeah.
Whereas someone else is like really in it would have more to say.
Yeah,
the other idea from the show, and we've kind of touched on this, is when Todd is told that he has no discernible life direction. And I loved this call out because there was just like, I like how she's dressed in a collar while they're driving somewhere. I think at least that's where the scene takes place. And she's just like dressed in her business casual attire, and he's dressed in his normal red hoodie, yellow hat. And it just felt like a really good, like it was as though the TV show was talking through the screen and kind of also addressing me, I thought. Because when it comes to like a career, I really don't have anything figured out. Like we got this idea for a bar. I'm not really sure where that is in the works. And I also just know that I don't want to do what I'm currently doing. But at the same time, I think every day, like, this is pretty cushy. I'm working whenever. I can take off work at 3 o'clock and do this. But then also, like, when I have conversations with a manager about career goals, luckily I have a manager for now who has told me that he should be in a higher position because he's been working there for 10 years, but also he likes to play the guitar. And to which I said back, yeah, I should have more certifications, but I like listening to music. And we just kind of let that one go by. So I don't know. What about you? How did you feel about that line? Or
Well, one thing that I find interesting is Todd has always been my least favorite character
okay,
because I think it's kind of just like a shtick character. There's not much development. It's just kind of one-dimensional. His thing is that he's just this guy who lives on BoJack's couch and doesn't really do anything. But more and more, I find myself feeling that I am that character.
This is kind of
especially since I've quit my job and just recognizing that every day I don't really do anything.
Yeah. I mean, how has this time made you feel away from working?
Well, that's a good question.
Like, you saw my text about the old woman that works at Myers who just says hello to you.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the text, I just have to fill this in because we are trying to film something here. The rest of the text, do I have it somewhere? I'm sure I have it somewhere. Can I just read that? Whatever. The rest of the text basically does she do it so that she can talk to at least someone and she doesn't feel so lonely and therefore doesn't kill herself? Or does she do it because she's making a greater statement on how working an occupation is inescapable and without some kind of purpose, we would kill ourselves? Your thoughts, Mark?
Well, let me just give you a detailed look at the past couple days.
Yeah.
Just like the past 3 days. Past 3 working days. Today, Friday, and Thursday. So last Wednesday, Jacqueline and I booked a trip to New York City.
All right.
Just for 3-4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, kid you not, for about 5 hours each day, been researching things to do on this trip. I mean, I've spent more time researching this trip than I will be on the actual trip. And the reason I've done that is just because that's the only thing I have to do. And, the days before that, for some reason I haven't even been watching movies recently. I've just been doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Browsing nonsense online. And the second we booked that, I finally had a purpose, great. I have something to do. I can plan
a task. Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. And they've by far been the best days since I've quit my job.
Right. No, I think you're hitting at something that like I was legitimately trying to make in that text. Because I mean, there are some days when it's very slow. As you know, I don't work the 40 hours that maybe I should be working. But in that time, because I've got that time now, it's typically me listening to music and then me also having like some YouTube clip up. I'm just like I just complete overstimulate all the senses, visually, musically. There's just like tons of noise going on all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm not really watching the clip. I'm not really listening to the music. It's just whatever free time that I have during like normal work hours, I just absolutely waste doing nothing. Like it really is nothing because I'm not getting anything out of it.
Yeah.
It's just like the sensory overload. But then also on days when it's very, very slow, I will just take an absorbent amount of time to answer some Reddit post or something. Like just suddenly ranking the top 10 beach house songs becomes the most important thing to
Yeah.
do that day and like my only task. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
And another big part of my day is getting dinner prepared. Um, just looking online for things that I think I can make with the food that I have.
Have you become a culinary wizard?
Not at all. I'm not a pretty bad chef.
Okay. Mark's famous mac and cheese.
But I still enjoy it a lot because, like I said earlier, I think cooking is somewhat interesting. Um,
Yeah.
but
Chandler and Rachel Ray.
yeah, but I think I can't feel that way about any task you give me. So another example is a couple weeks ago, finally moved everything from my apartment into Darklands.
Okay.
And my plan was, for that work week, I was gonna unpack everything. That was all I had to do that week.
Yeah.
And I've unpacked. And 3 weeks later, it's maybe halfway unpacked.
Yeah.
And even though that's another task that I've been given, it's just something that I don't like at all, and I can't muster up the energy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that my jobs have been, I hated them because I just think the tasks are awful. So it's having a purpose, but the purpose or the things you have to do to achieve that purpose have to be something that you somewhat like.
Well, I mean,
Like your example of ranking beach house albums or songs. Obviously, you love beach house and you love ranking things, so that's a great task. It can't be any task that will give your life meaning. It has to be a task that you can wrap your mind around.
Something to wrap my mind around. How much of that is you being too rock and roll though? Because something that you've mentioned before is how you feel this kind of subversive nature whenever asked to do something. Are you being asked to make dinner, or is that something that's like, well, because I don't have a job now, I should probably do this one thing?
That's what it is, yeah.
So I wonder if it would change if this was some rule that was written down by Jack Wen, some kind of condition. Do you think it would?
It might, but still, she hasn't told me like to unpack, you know.
Right.
So that's
Right. And yeah, unpacking just I guess doesn't interest you. Well, I don't know. What's in the box?
it's just, you know, stuff for like the bathroom. Um, it's just like some supplies for like an office, you know, that type of stuff.
I guess my question is, does the contents of what's in the box serve any purpose for you right now?
Well, listen to this.
Oh, I'm listening, Mark.
The very first thing on that Monday morning, right after she left for work at 6:30 a.m., first thing I did was unpack my liquor and get that set up on the table. And I did a hell of a job.
Yeah, you gotta set the bar to make the guest. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, there was like a couple things I set up in the kitchen, and that was it. And then everything else has been so slow. Like, I'll unpack one thing a day. And now I'm just done. I haven't done anything for the past couple of days.
I mean, like this is like a good metaphor, I suppose. But I do kind of wonder if it's just because the rest of the stuff in the box really serves no purpose.
No, well,
Like if you threw out the contents of what's in the box, would you be fine?
I'm fine.
You could go, like, you wouldn't miss anything.
Well, like, I need some of the stuff. I would just go to the store and get it again.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you've essentially. So yeah, I think since it serves no function, there's no reason to pull it out. It's really just kind of a storage unit now, the box.
Yeah, right in the middle of the apartment.
well, maybe move the box. I like the idea of you dropping the box down right in the front of the door, or like right when you get to the door, and then having just left it there for the past 2 weeks. And every day there's just this whole interaction between you and Jacqueline where you say, "Oh yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow." It's funny. Do you know one of the saddest lines that I've ever heard from a drug addict was they said their want to have, I think heroin in this case, was so strong that the way they described addiction was, I'm not having any today, I'll do it tomorrow. I thought that was quite powerful. Anyway, we have diverted from the cartoon horse far too much. Let's get this thing turned around. There's 2 more notes. I think I said that there were 2 before, but now there's actually just 2 more notes, and then the related tangents to get into. So this kind of brings us back to a quote I used earlier that Princess Carolyn says about BoJack not being the drunk asshole and instead having a good attitude. And that great, the button that, you know, either preserves life for the next 50 years or does nothing. Conversation we had. And so one of the biggest opponents to this argument, or one of the best arguments against it, I think, was actually not between you and I. It was later between Priya and I, and how she said that it's really just all about perception and state of mind. Like you can think that hitting the button would somehow, I don't know, like if you think that everywhere there is like pain and suffering, then just kind of narrow the scope to something more immediate and try to find a lack thereof, all that pain and suffering. And what I want to try to get to, this has become way too winded, is this idea of like it all just being in your head and about perspective and how you kind of internalize what you're going through. So maybe like a good segue from our previous conversation is, would you say that having had this time off has been a better experience than working?
It's certainly been a better experience than working, without a doubt.
Okay. But is there a but?
My but is I wouldn't want to relive the past however much time I haven't been working.
You wouldn't want to relive it.
No.
You're done with it.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Because nothing happened.
Mm.
Like I guess there are a couple moments, that will definitely go in the memory bank.
Are we making memories out here?
As good times, but overall it's just been pretty meaningless.
Well, I mean, meaningless is a strange word to use there. Don't you think?
Why is that?
It's not so much meaningless as much as like a little action. You want like, let me play a scenario out for you. The postman. Do you have a postman?
Do I what?
A postman?
Do I have one?
Yeah, a mailman.
To deliver mail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit. They have those? What if this postman robbed you? I mean, like by gunpoint at your door. He knocks on the door. He says, "I've got a delivery for you." Pulls the box off. He's got a gun in his hand.
Yeah.
It's not your postman.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before to me how you would like the experience of kidnapping, but the guarantee that it'd be fine. I mean, I think this is a similar scenario where it's just like you want some big thing to happen, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe not even big. I think like there is something precious about the interaction, even if they're terrible. But there is something good about being upset about the interactions you have with your coworkers, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just something that happened.
Go on.
Do you, do you? Well, let me ask: how much time do you spend out of the apartment during the day?
I'd say it averages to about half an hour.
I mean, you're doing even better than me. There will be weeks when I don't even step out of the door. And during that time, do you run into any characters? Probably not. I mean,
No,
you don't talk to staff much, I wouldn't think.
No.
So I guess you just need to what would really clear that up is if you just started going to like a dog park and walking a dog.
Fucking cold out.
Yeah, it's cold out. Well, there, look, you've already got a way to start a conversation. There's this great line on the internet about how like people were talking about walking their dogs, I think, in at like parks and whatnot. and someone mentioned how dog walkers only know each other by their dogs' names or like other people's dogs' names and don't know people by their actual name. I just thought that was good. I think that's all. It's really just the activity, not so much meeting anyone. Um, okay, so I think we've determined that you want something to happen. Although what I will say is like days when nothing happens, I'm not too upset about it. Like I wouldn't take back this time that I've had. I mean, I think I've really become quite the recluse. A really good one at it too. But I don't think to myself, it would be better if I went into work today.
Yeah.
I mean, do you like here's a good question, maybe. How strongly do you miss high school?
How strongly do I miss high school?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right now, by the way.
Right now.
And the aspects of high school that I really want to highlight are the time walking through the halls at cafeteria and then like the jib jab that you have before you get on the bus.
Yeah. Um, I missed it quite a bit, I think.
You know what's so interesting is through college, I missed high school a lot. as you know. What's that group love song? Take me to your best friend's house. Yeah, I mean, that's the quintessential high school song. But now that I'm an adult or whatever, I do not miss it one bit. And I think I'm going to try to do my best to explain why. I haven't thought through this enough. But I think in college, I had this idea of what that experience was supposed to be like, where you're just like constantly getting hammered. You're just like always having fun is I
Yeah.
thought the idea of college.
Yeah.
And I didn't always feel that way in college. But I looked back at high school and thought like there was always someone to dick around with. And like I remember I still do kind of regret not being more innocuous during class and just like messing with the teacher more. That
Yeah.
is kind of a regret of mine, but not enough to say that I would want to like redo the whole experience. But now that I'm out in the free world, as an adult, there isn't this there wasn't, at least for me, this idea that being adult was going to be constantly happy. It's
Yeah.
almost like this is our society has set how I feel about the two times and places. So
Yeah.
I don't look back at high school and think I missed that because I just don't think it's realistic.
I, for me, what I really miss about high school, and also what I really miss about freshman year of college, is just how naive I was. Not naive isn't the right word. It's just how everything just felt like a new experience, and just you never knew exactly what was going on because you're just a kid. Um, if you understand what I'm saying.
I'm not quite sure I do. Like, you don't think you knew what was going on when you applied to college?
No, I'm saying, trying to think of a good analogy. Um, best analogy I can give is take a long-term romantic relationship.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes, the many
in
ones
my
that I've had.
in my opinion, the best part is always that beginning part, that first couple weeks.
Yeah, they call it the honeymoon phase. Keep going.
But not even the honeymoon phase. Before the honeymoon phase.
Is it during the will they, won't they?
Yeah, the will they, won't they?
The chase.
Yeah, the chase. What's so exciting about that phase is that you're not exactly sure what's going to come of all this. You don't know the person too well. So, hopefully, everything that you find out about the person you just think is so interesting, so unique. Um, and to me, that's how I feel about high school and even more so freshman year of college. You know, just I saw like I remember being a freshman in college and just thinking to myself, I can just do whatever I want today. I can go see a movie. I can do this. I can do that.
Hmm.
And that's what I really miss. Compared to the later months in a relationship when on paper it should be a hell of a lot better. You know,
Yeah.
but there's just not that uncertainty and mysteriousness that comes with those first couple weeks. That's how I feel like life is now. You know, nothing's gonna happen to me that's really gonna like shock me, or really gonna get me on edge. Like I had this trip planned to New York City. I was thinking about this while I was in the shower. How great could this trip possibly be? I've spent so much time researching it, and I got a good trip planned out, but there's nothing that's gonna happen that I'm gonna think, wow, this is incredible. I can never imagine anything like this before. Like I'm gonna go to the good restaurants I picked out, the good bars, see a couple shows, see the hot spots in New York, and then I'm gonna go home. That's it.
Yeah,
There's nothing mysterious about going to New York City, and I've never been there, by the way, but I know what to expect.
right. Well,
And that's another thing I was thinking of was just based on that. While I was in the shower, I was thinking maybe I just don't really like traveling. You know, what's so great about traveling? You just go to these couple places. That like I'll say it. Anything I can do in New York City, I can do in Columbus. There's
you
nice
said it.
restaurants. There's
Yeah.
nice restaurants in Columbus. There's some good bars. you know, Broadway's on tour. The show's going to come to Columbus eventually. There's nothing that I can't do
We'll
here.
see it in 2025. Yeah,
um,
I agree with you. I don't like traveling. In fact, this was a huge. I made my sister cry because I didn't want to go. So my family has this trip planned out in December through January to go to the West Coast, go up and
yeah,
down, or down and or yeah, up and down, up then down. And I didn't want to go on it because I didn't want to miss out on the band getting back together
yeah,
in December, as it
yeah,
will, and I will not be there. So I was telling my sister, I'm not. I don't feel as though I'm choosing family or you guys if what I do is come home a week early, spend it with them before they leave on vacation, and then later when they're on vacation, go and visit you guys wherever we meet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when like really got into it and we were really tussling verbally, uh I started listing off some facts, and those facts were my sister and my mom, they love to just what's the word, putz. They love to putz around shops and walk around
Yeah.
shops. Now, I don't mind walking through nature for a little bit. Don't mind it.
Yeah.
But I get nothing out of putzing around shops and looking at knickknacks I don't want. Um, and I'm not going to build an identity through the vacations I've had,
Yeah.
and frame it on a mantle.
Yeah.
So that, and then also whenever I go on vacation, typically what I like to do, like this is really, I think, an ideal vacation, is lying on a couch watching really bad TV. I mean, like whatever local TV they have, I just want to get obsessed with. In Hawaii, what I did is I watched
Yeah, you
the
told me about
high school women's volleyball team.
that. Yeah.
And that and drink occasionally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not even like I don't even really care too much about being on the beach or not being on the beach. Like if I'm on the beach, I'm gonna say, well, if this isn't nice, then I don't know what is. But if I'm at a good bar too, I'm gonna say, well, if this isn't nice, then I don't know what is. It's just like
Yeah.
it's not so much. This is something that I said to Tony quite a bit on our trip to San Fran recently. Is I'm not going to visit San Francisco. I'm going to visit you,
Yeah.
right? Like that's all that really matters. So yeah, I agree. I'm not a big vacation or not vacation, huge on vacations. I'm not a big travel guy.
Yeah. Another thing, I already have my next trip planned out with Brooklyn. I don't know when it's gonna be, but I already know what we're gonna do. Found this hotel in Perrysburg, Ohio, right outside Toledo, and it's just a private room, or well, I mean, it's like your your room is like a suite, and you have like a private pool, and this sounded great to me. You know, I've always liked the idea of swimming like with in like a romantic with like a partner. Um, but any pool is just way too crowded. I don't want to. That's why I love hot tubs, but I never go in hot tubs because I don't want to just like hop into this pot of water with strangers.
Yeah.
That's not appealing. But I love the feeling of being in a hot tub. So this room, has a private hot tub and a private pool. So, just grab a couple bottles of wine and head there for the weekend. You know, that sounds like a great trip to me.
I like it. Yeah, I dig it. I think I would also just hop around a bunch of what's the word? Uncanny, not uncanny, but exotic. We use exotic hotels that were a little gimmicky
Oh yeah,
and enjoy.
yeah.
That's a good. I liked everything that you said there. But here's something to consider. You won't be able to spend that much time in the hot tub or pool. Does that ever upset you? Like, I imagine. How many nights have you booked for? One night?
No, I haven't booked any. I just know this is going to be the next trip.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'll probably go for one night.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I can't imagine that you would want to spend more than 4 hours in water.
But yeah, I'm thinking, we get there at like 3 in the afternoon.
So till 7.
Yeah, soak till 7, grab dinner, go back, have a second soak, go to bed, leave in the morning.
You're gonna be so pruny during dinner. That's good. I dig it. All right. I think that's the close on that. The last thing, and this is potentially a throwaway, but I don't know. I think there's something to it. The outro song to the episode. The lyrics go, "How can anybody have you and lose you and not lose their minds too?" Your thoughts?
Have you, lose you. I mean, I like the words.
By the way, the song is awesome. So it's so poppy. It's just those words over and over.
I don't know if I have any thoughts on this.
I just think it's very interesting that they chose these lyrics to be the end of episode 1, because I'm not even really sure who you is.
How does episode 1 end? It's like the last scene.
I think the last scene is, "This is going to be a great season of television."
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then it focuses on a fish dancer dancing.
That's right, yeah.
But like I can't make sense out of it. I don't know if someone back at corporate was just like, "This girl has to get a bit." So plug her in somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, I know. I'll just throw her in the first episode."
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wish there was more to say about that, but maybe there isn't. All right. I've run out of things to talk about related to episode 1.
Good.
I think I'm going to close on that.
Thanks for listening, folks.
This was really just two guys talking. That's exactly what I wanted.
What's the podcast part about this?
I don't know. Well, so like a reason why I want to do this is, I'm not really sure why actually, but some reason why I'm interested in the idea of podcasts is because recently I've been falling asleep to Ricky Gervais's and Chris Pickleton's podcast of Steve's Nation.
Is it good?
What?
Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's good. I loved it.
Oh, wow.
I love it. And then also last night I fell asleep to Craig Ferguson. Like just a playlist of Craig Ferguson clips.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we've got good bedtime voices, but I do like listening to things that I'm interested in while falling asleep.
Yeah.
And maybe I'd fall asleep a little quicker if Ricky Gervais wasn't laughing all the time. And Craig Ferguson didn't sometimes release the horse from the barn, causing a bunch of noise, waking me up at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I think at the very least, what might end up happening for me is I'll rewatch these as I go to bed.
Absurd.
It is absurd. I'm still going to put it up on the line, though.